I don't even know who the woman. Let's see. I don't know who. It's Marla.
You say Marla's in this photo?
That's Marla. Yeah, that's my wife.
Which woman are you pointing to?
No, that's
Here.
Carol.
Oh, is that,
The person
okay.
you just pointed to was
Oh,
E.
I
Jean
see.
Carroll.
Who is that? Who is
Furthest
this?
point, your wife.
And the woman on the right is your then wife,
I don't know.
Ivana?
This was the picture.
Ivana.
I assume that's John Johnson. Is that
That's Carol.
Carol? Because it's very blurry.
I'm joined by Rachel Bitecofer, author of Hit 'em Where It Hurts. And Rachel, you see that video right there of Donald Trump from his deposition in the E. Jean Carroll case where he was found liable for being a rapist, and he was just hit with an $83.3 million defamation verdict for defaming his rape victim, which he consistently did even while he was in the courtroom during his trial. So all aspects of that, from his depo, not remembering, the fact that he was found liable for sexual assault, the fact that he defamed his victim, that he was doing it in court, yet you see no legacy media seemingly caring about this. On the other hand, you have a report clearly written by a political operative appointed by Donald Trump. New York Times devotes their entire front page to this. CNN posts that the best day for Donald Trump. Does the legacy media do they want fascism? Do we here at independent media have to build an ecosystem bigger than them? Hit them where it hurts, Rachel. What is going on?
No, I'm actually really glad you're starting with that, because it's included in my book. The first half of it is kind of describing the system that we exist in and its inadequacies. But one of the chapters, I lay out how Republicans do narrative setting and how they've used not only their own like impenetrable, massive media ecosystem that we need a competing, counterpart to, but really manipulating our media system. And that comes down to the fact that journalists operate on certain norms and ethics and training, and the Republican Party knows what they are, and they understand how to manipulate their behavior. So a great example of that right now is last night, but prior was the Barr memo. When you think about what the Barr memo was able to do, number one, it came out from the Attorney General of the United States. So it's immediately going to have a legitimization in the mainstream Beltway media. It's the AG. So if he says no collusion, must be no collusion. And then they printed it for like a week, right? It was like a week delay on the report. Every headline, just like you just described, no collusion. And when you poll people, not the MAGA people, because who gives a shit, right? But the actual swing voters and like less partisan people, their impression is that the Russia investigation literally found no collusion. And what it didn't find was chargeable collusion, but it found plenty of actual collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. So they're always 10 steps ahead of us. And to me, when I saw like the headline come out from the Her report, I thought, oh, it's like the scene in Jurassic Park when that guy realizes the velociraptor has tricked him, right? It's the same shit, different day. And they knew that they would run with it, this line about being the nice old guy with poor memory. And it's really bad for us folks because they've already got a 2-year head start on branding Biden as having dementia. And in public opinion, we see that swing voters think Biden has dementia. They do not think that about Donald Trump because they have never, ever even heard that stuff. And now it's going to come to us to have to show them things like the clip that you just saw, put that shit in a paid ad and put it on media because people have never seen it.
Well, that's why whether it's these narratives of there's going to be a red wave, even though the data was not reflective of that, or there is this narrative that what's going to happen with the issues on reproductive rights. Do voters care about it? They don't care about it. And then there's I guess voters really do care about it, even though all of the data was showing that they care about. So these narratives that exist in the media are these kind of waves of content that are drowning out the actual data. And you would think that where the media should be focused on are, okay, well, here are the facts, here's what's happening. And if someone was pointing a gun at you, to not basically support the person who's about to literally try to kill you. But it seems that that's what they're doing. I mean, take a look at this clip. This is from yesterday. This didn't happen, you know, you could say, okay, well, Ben, you're just selectively showing the Trump deposition in the rape case. Well, I'll show you yesterday morning where Donald Trump, after the Supreme Court oral argument, Trump went out in Mar-a-Lago. Let me show you what he said, Rachel. Here, play this clip.
I heard and I watched. And the one thing I'll say is they kept saying about what I said right after the insurrection. Because I think it was an insurrection caused by Nancy Pelosi.
I think it was an insurrection caused by Nancy Pelosi. You really can't get more deranged and unhinged and obviously false than saying a statement like that. And he consistently gives these speeches where he says Nancy Pelosi did it, and sometimes he confuses her with Nikki Haley and goes, Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley. But that doesn't raise a red alert with the media that there is this fascist telling us literally, yeah, I want to be a dictator on day one. I'm going to be a dictator. Yet the media seems to not give a crap about that. Unfortunately, we're building something new. But why is that, Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, God, it's frustrating, right? I mean, in some regards, the media has gotten better. I want to make clear that I always talk about what progress there is in the strategic shift that I'm working on, and also in media, because the old media would have treated these House investigations as legitimate, okay? They treated the big lie as something that had to be proven wrong and factually checked and litigated in court, even though we all knew months ahead of time that he was going to lie about the election. So that legitimization function of the media is just so terrible, right? And you would think that they would learn not to be useful idiots, especially given the stakes that they're facing. Donald Trump has been very clear that he's going to become a dictator. And then after that, he's going to come after the free press. And I suppose people, some of these journalists in the Beltway think maybe they'll get a pass, or somehow like it won't be them. But when, you know, even if they are feared about getting put in a camp, which I think you should be fearful of, because that's what the Nazis did. Within 3 months, Dachau was open and filled full of their political opponents. This is even before they went after the Jews. Then what I would tell these Republicans or these media folks is the Republican Party isn't going to be kind to you in fascism either. You have a vested interest in doing truth reporting, right? It's not about this side said that side. Find the fucking truth and report it. And that's why building something like MeidasTouch Network to me is so critical for the future. We have to assume that we're going to win this wildfire, and then we have to deal with climate change, right? So we want to make sure that we're building in the infrastructure that we're going to need to reinvigorate and strengthen American democracy. And that's why, you know, this network to me is so important.
Let me show you this clip right here. Again, I'm showing you things that happened 1 day ago from the time, you know, we're recording this. So this is Elise Stefanik, who many believe that will be Donald Trump's VP in the race, and he'll select her. I want to show you what she said yesterday when she was on CNN, and this is someone who's already calling the January 6th insurrectionists. She calls them hostages. She says that what her real concern about January 6th is, even though on the day of she was hiding and she put out a statement saying what a shameful day it was. She says the real issue is how we deal with these, you know, hostages, and we need to really help these insurrectionists like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. And she just says it out loud. And, you know, here in the CNN interview, she's asked if she was the vice president on January 6th, how would she have responded? And she basically says, like a fascist, I would respond as though I were a criminal to topple the government. Here, let's play this clip.
Has the ability to pass legislation.
And we did.
But
And
let's
House
talk about
Republicans
the
did.
vice presidency, because you just said that you would be willing to serve in a Trump administration. Had you been vice president on January 6, 2021, what would you have done?
I stood up for the Constitution. I believe it was
what would you have done if you were vice president?
I would not have done what Mike Pence did. I don't think that was the right approach. I specifically stand by what I said on the House floor, and I stand by my statement, which was there was
you would have
unconstitutional
rejected the votes.
overreach. There was unconstitutional. constitutional overreach in states like Pennsylvania. And I think it's very important that we continue to stand up for the Constitution and have legal and secure elections, which we did not have in 2020. And the tens of millions of Americans agree with me, Caitlin.
Well, I would say the Supreme Court in the state of Pennsylvania said that Republican passed changes to their law was constitutional. But it's notable.
I mean, look, Caitlin Collins did fine there, but like when you the very platforming of that statement is somebody going on CNN saying tens of millions of people supported Hitler. So that doesn't justify the underlying conduct. And it is kind of a tacit implicit admission that, oh, I'm relying on the fact that we've deceived millions of people to believe this as the way we're justifying the existence of fascism. So, and again, we'll play that here on this network. You won't see it anywhere. I know we've been a little bit descriptive in this interview. Let's be prescriptive, though, and talk about your approach. I know you're speaking and training parties as part of the release of this book there. The good news for everybody out there that's worried is they're using your book right now as a model to learn about what they need to do. The book's hit them where it hurts right there, how to save democracy by beating Republicans at their own game. So walk us through what you're training people, what needs to happen.
Yeah, this is such an important book. It's really my life's work to have written this book. What it's doing is two things. First off, it's explaining, bringing you, the reader, into my head, trained political scientist, expert in voting behavior, mass behavior, political opinion, psychology, voter psychology, and campaigns and elections. Because believe it or not, folks, when you watch TV analysts, most of them they're practitioner experts, so they're not actual structural experts in the subject of elections and voter behavior. And that has caused us to evolve an electioneering system that is based on flawed assumptions of the electorate. So before we get into the branches of should it be this message and that or whatever, we're actually planting the tree in bad soil. We have to root it all up and tear it out. So the first part is about convincing people as to why our electioneering system fails next to the Republicans. And then the second part is describing how we build one, why we, as specifically how we do it, and why it's so important to get off of this old electioneering strategy, which failed half the map in 2022. The places that ran new strategy where you're using a message like Roe, you're arguing that Tudor Dixon, the Michigan governor race, they argued Tudor Dixon's a MAGA extremist. She's going to steal your freedom, right? They defined the race that way. Abandoning this idea that there's a persuasion bucket and you can persuade people on, policy and candidate biography. I rode a motorcycle and I used to be a sheriff and whatever, right? And then one other message that maybe if you have some money, you try to drive turnout out to the polls. Nah, Republicans abandoned that system completely starting in 2010, have been running over a decade of a new system, which is one message frame. Democrats are scary and bad for you. And it's delivered to the whole voter file. So what it is doing in that voter file is twofold. It's pushing out that mobilization-based coalition turnout, which, by the way, would include a big chunk of independents because many independents are actually closet partisans. But it's also doing persuasion in a very specific way that we have only started to dabble in, which is instead of persuading somebody to vote for your candidate on all these great attributes and what they might do for them, the Republican persuasion message is the Democrats are scary. Don't vote for that party. That brand is bad. It's a socialist brand. They're coming for your money. They're coming to turn your male children into girls, whatever it is. There's no bipartisan, I'm moderate, I'm going to get things done. I'm not one of those kinds of Republican advertising. And they kill us in swing races, running extremist, right? J.D. Vance in Ohio, when we do not tell the electorate that the Republican Party is an extremist threat to them, the electorate does not know. Okay, it doesn't follow the news, it doesn't know who controls the House, it doesn't understand why immigration reform didn't happen again. All it knows is the president mostly, may not even know their own governor. We have to meet that clay where it is and design our electoral strategy on the electorate that exists and not the one that we wish would exist.
You know, and look, I ultimately view, and perhaps I'm a gas or a glass half full kind of person. I view what's the attack on Biden as probably a wake up call. You know, if there's a moment in time that could be looked at as, look, the media is going to be pushing these narratives. We better in the pro-democracy community step up this game quickly, because sometimes the narratives and perceptions become the reality. You could do everything right for the economy. You can do everything right. You could even drill more, but they go drill, baby, drill, baby, drill, baby, drill, and they're better on drilling because they're saying a nursery rhyme of a first grader when it's just inconsistent with the underlying data of who is even engaged in more domestic drilling, while still being cognizant of climate change and focusing on everything that needs to be focused on. So sometimes the perception often becomes the reality, and it's time to just get out there, or fascism's going to do its fascism thing. Democracy is but a blip in the history of mankind. And you see the forces with all of the info out there exploiting it in a way to manipulate, people. And I think it's incumbent upon people to know the facts. That's why everyone needs to get your book, Rachel Bitecofer, right there. Hit them where it hurts: How to Save Democracy by Beating Republicans at Their Own Game. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you do come back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Make sure everybody you hit subscribe. We're on our way to 3 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a good one.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.